Hello, welcome to the X Factor podcast. I'm your host, Charles Epstein. Joining me today is Mark Wyatt. Mark has worked in the field of IT consulting and software development over the past 25 years. He has been the owner of several successful software development companies, two of which were acquired by other firms. Currently, he is the founder and CEO of Quantiv Group, a consulting company dedicated to helping other tech firms with business development using the agile method. Mark joins me today from Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hey, doing good, Charles.
I really do appreciate you joining me today. When I looked over your LinkedIn page, I counted six organizations we are listed as founder. What is it that drives you to create and build multiple companies? What does it take to be successful at it? I mean, after six times, I assume you've got a formula now.
Well, those aren't six successes. So, yeah, there is a little bit. I've thought a lot about that over the years. And I mean, one of the things is, a lot of times people see success and that's all they see. They don't see all the failures that led up to that. So, I think not being afraid to fail, I think is one of the things. And of those six successes, I would say I'd say half or a little more than half were good, but there were a couple of duds in there as well.
Were there any good failures?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to me, failure is good when you learn from it. So as long as you can glean something from it and move forward and improve, then yeah, I mean it's basically just like experimenting in a laboratory. It's like what Thomas
Yeah.
Edison said after trying thousands of different things. It's like that's just another thing that didn't work. So you move forward and try
Yeah.
something else.
If you can get a hold of the younger Mark Wyatt and slap some sense into him, what exactly would you be saying? What exactly would you be saying?
I would tell him that to apply the 80-20 rule when it comes to tech startups, 80% of what you should be doing and focused on is new client acquisition. 20% is on actual building something and delivery.
Okay, so that is the cornerstone of all your experience and all the wisdom you've acquired over the years.
Just if it was like if I could only give him
If you
like a
could
couple of
reduce it to this
sentences,
one glowing
yep,
thing and put it in a
that
box.
that would be, yeah, because the younger Mark Wyatt was just too obsessed and passionate with the technology and enamored with it and spent way too much time in it and not really on the client acquisition and
Such a
getting out and
common problem,
yep,
such a common
yep,
problem. You get enamored with the functionality, the technology, and as you get further and further into it, the further adrift you tend to get from what people are doing, what they need. So
yep.
classic thing. So tell me, what does Quantum do?
So basically what I just described is what I built. I basically built a company that I would have hired back when I had my startups. And if I could have convinced the younger me to hire Quantiv.
Right.
So basically, I'm focused on helping other tech companies. Some of them are startups, some of them have been around a long time, to take a very different and new approach to sales and marketing and business development, and to look at it more as a process that can agile can be applied to the same agile in building software, so that you take the agile process, you apply it to business development, you turn it into a process that's repeatable, definable, and improvable with data analytics. And that's basically what I've been doing for 5 years, and not just selling the process, but I have a small team and we execute on it for three key performance indicators: good meetings that lead to proposal that lead to close.
Uh, could you give me any concrete examples, what you saw with a particular technology company and how you needed to whip them into shape as far as this goes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so most of them, their approach to sales and marketing is it's some kind of magical voodoo that can happen or not happen. They spend way too much money on it without any real result. They hire salespeople, fire them, hiring marketing companies fire them. So one of my first clients, it was actually the CEO of a company that I knew the guy for a long time, and he had a salesperson and some marketing, but just couldn't move forward. And I said, well, let me come in and work with your folks and apply agile and see what we can do. So one of the first things I did with the sales guy is I went through the funnel with him, and he knew I was there not to replace him, but to help him. And it basically was what I call a false funnel. So he had like 80 contacts in the funnel, and we whittled it down to where there was maybe only 12 real, contacts that were actually going to go somewhere. So the false funnel was something I helped with right away. The other thing was constantly looking at who you're reaching out to, what are you saying to them, what differentiates you, and continue to change that until you start getting some success. In other words, try to fail fast and fail smart. So within 3 months, we actually landed 3 new clients by doing this agile activity.
To what extent is AI a competitor of yours?
Um, I don't really see it as a competitor. I mean, we've actually embraced it. And this is something, of course, 5 years ago wasn't as available as it is today in the generative AI and the chat GPT and that type of thing. We actually, my small team of 10 people 2 years ago started challenging ourselves, saying, hey, let's continue to grow and improve. But instead of, all the ways that we were doing it, let's start shifting toward AI and see how this new generative AI can actually help us to offer more to our clients at the same cost.
Yeah, oh, no, I just see out there, perhaps it's anecdotal, but you also read the articles talking about there are more and more tools out there to help marketing people do quote unquote more with less. And if you use some of them creatively and intelligently, you can get some pretty decent outcomes. The problem is that some of it may well be fool's gold. You do need to have sort of that governing intelligence to be able to separate wheat from chaff, to be able to sort of dial everything in such a way, because it's very, very hard to get anything you get out of these tools, any further than maybe 70% there. It's
Mm-hmm.
and again, the last mile problem, applies. It's the last 30%. A lot of that is where the hard work and the thinking and the creativity, that really
Mm-hmm.
comes in. We have to thread all these needles. I know we had touched on some of your bigger projects over the course of your career in IT, Library of Congress and so forth. Were those before you founded Quantiv?
Yeah, so Quantiv, I made the decision. I really didn't want to do any software development. I'd done enough of that for my lifetime. So I didn't want to build anything. We use off-the-shelf SaaS tools, so we're very process and data focused and not tech focused as much. But previously, yeah, I mean, I did all kinds of different software, IT consulting. Library of Congress was one of the larger ones where basically they needed a portal for all the publishers in the country to go to and register their publications. So not only did they need the external portal, but then they also needed the back end for the approval system. And I basically went to DC, met with them, started architect the solution all on Oracle technology, and had a small team, and it was about a year-long project, and we built the whole thing out.
So Quantive brings together, a range of these complementary workforce or work tech solutions, if you will. If you would, you talked a little bit about the marketing consultation and such. What other tools do you have? What other solutions do you have? Obviously, this is the AIX Factor podcast, so we're biased to anything with an AI component.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we started right away. One of the things that we saw very powerful was, I do all my uh, prospect meetings on Zoom. And the cool thing is, Quantiv uses the same agile process and tools that we help our clients with. So we eat our own dog food, if you will.
Right.
So early on, one of the first ones that we saw right away, because as we were doing all of these Zoom meetings, there was a tool called Fireflies that would join the meeting, and a lot of people know, there's several of them, and it would transcribe all of all the voice. And we thought, wow, that's cool. So we started doing that, and we would read the transcriptions. And eventually, as ChatGPT got popular, Fireflies built an API into ChatGPT that would basically go out, bring your whole conversation to ChatGPT and come back, and then you could query it and get some AI summarized and action items and all kinds of rich things that generative AI would start doing with the transcription of your meeting. So we started to heavily leverage that technology at the beginning. So that was one of the first generative AI technologies that we saw, a lot of benefit to.
I think you also have some tools to do AI integrated assessments, workforce audits. Could you speak to some of that stuff?
Last year, we got really experienced with using the, Claude and ChatGPT and Llama, where I started a new division of Quantiv called Quantiv AI. And the AI stands for agile intelligence, because to me, it felt a lot like when I got into the internet back in the 90s. Here's this amazing technology. It's kind of a whiteboard, white
Mhm.
canvas. How do you really use it? How do you solve problems with it? And I saw right away with the prompting, you really needed to run that through an iterative process to improve. So what we do is we have these 1 hour business development strategy sessions with companies, and we do them on Zoom, and that whole 1 hour is transcribed. We make sure that it's somewhat scripted on our end so that we ask certain questions and we go through certain topics. So our trained AI agent, once it gets that data, it basically looks for that and produces a really nice 10-page strategy document within like 5 minutes for that customer. That was taking us, hours to do in the past.
On your LinkedIn page, you linked to an article with the title Goodbye Digital Transformation. Hello, AI First Business Transformation. What does AI First Business Transformation mean and what does it look like?
Well, it's again, I mean, my best comparison is the internet back, at the very beginning. And you had a lot of companies wondering, should I get involved with the internet or should I not? Is it gonna affect me? Is it important? And at the time, I saw it so pervasive that it was like that wasn't even the question. I could see that the internet was going to be, everyone was going to be on, every business was going to be using it to a greater or lesser degree. And so it wasn't really that question. So, AI seems to be very similar in that it's not a matter of, yes or no, or if it is. And it's the next iteration beyond digital transformation. In fact, if companies, are still in the middle of transforming digitally, which a lot of them are, AI is absolutely a component of it. But the one thing that I will say, though, just like the internet is really, if you ask someone what is the internet, most people are like, they use their phone, they use this,
Like
they don't.
space.
Yeah, it's like, but to us, the guys that were in it in the beginning, we know that it's FTP, we know that it's HTTP, we know
TCP/IP,
that it's
right?
TCP, we know that all of these
We know it was
found
Unix. We know all that stuff.
right. So that's all the foundational technology.
Right.
Well, there's going to come a time where LLM is going to become the same way. That is just foundational right now. The Chat GPT, all of
Well,
those are
what's
just
interesting,
foundational.
what's also interesting, Mark, is the way you're using it. As you say, you're eating your own dog food. You are using these tools in very productive, smart ways, and obviously, to some extent, you're kicking the tires so you can support how your clients are using them in those ways. So, to one extent, it's interesting. I think we talk about AI, we tend to think about Claude and Chat and some of those amazing platforms, but there's another way of talking about it, which is how you're using it, which is to say it's embedded in so many things and it's going to become ubiquitous to the point where sort of like the internet, it fades into the woodwork. It no longer is something you need to talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think you're going to see that happen this year. And the one thing that is huge right now, this is the pivotal tool. It's called Mantis, and it just came out of China. It is not an LLM. It is this layer on top of the LLMs that actually produces agentic AI. You can't, they're selling sign up to it. You can't even get on it yet. It's just in a preliminary, but it's like one of the best examples right now of this, layer on top of the LLM. And ubiquitous was the word I was trying to think of before I came on this podcast. I just
Okay.
glad that you said it, because that's exactly, I think, the way that people should start looking at ChatGPT and Claude and Llama. Those are going to become ubiquitous. The next wave is going to be like Adobe has an amazing tool now that sits on top of the LLMs. And I watched a video on it. I couldn't even believe it. Microsoft is coming up with, you're going to see these suites of tools, and you're going to see how they're going to be like more graphical. They're going to kind of look more like, drag and drop type tools that are going to be doing workflows and integrating AI with it.
Yeah, no, it seems every day, quite literally, there's something new, and what was the leader in a particular area is leapfrogged by something that's even more mind-blowing. As far as what's going on in China, it's really kind of interesting because, they a lot of those companies are now embracing open source in that system, and there's a lot of entrepreneurial animal spirits, if you will, that are unleashed, within that sort of subset of their economy and their system, and they're coming up with amazing products.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of hype to it. And one of the things you asked earlier about the successes in my businesses is really to find business problems, find ways to solve them, and then monetize that. So, when it comes to the AI, I'm a real rubber meets the road. It's like, okay, that's great. How can we solve a problem today? So one of the things that I think companies need to start doing is solving little problems first and not trying to do these big things that are
Such
basically
as,
choking it. Just like something that's in a workflow, you're going to send emails out to people, and you want to reword it, have ChatGPT rewrite it for you. If you don't understand how to do something, stop going to Google, go to ChatGPT and ask
so
it
what's
to
the
help you.
what's the philosophy in your experience behind those little improvements, those incremental improvements?
Well, it does two things. It gets you into using this technology on a daily basis so you can get familiar with it and its limitations, what it can do and what it can't do. Story I like to tell is, I was doing a consulting thing with a company and helping them with email back in 2000 something. And they got really upset with us and said, our email doesn't work. You can, it's not working. And we're like, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? Well, we try to send emails and they won't go. Well, what we found out? They were trying to do a 100 megabyte attachment and send it to somebody.
Okay.
But it
Okay.
sounds hilarious now,
Right.
but they didn't know that. They
Yeah.
just knew you attach files and send them.
Sure.
They didn't understand, there was that limitation. So as far as they were concerned, email doesn't work for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, that was well after we had to use Mime and embed them in our emails, right?
Right, right, exactly.
This is a fun, hey, back in my day, hamburgers are a nickel. I walked 20 miles to school.
Yeah,
But I didn't know I'd reached a point in my life where that would become, part of the stories, the
yeah,
trove of
yeah,
stories.
yeah.
But in any case, yeah, no, totally hear you on that. Anything that people come to you, is there any one question, any one concern when the conversation turns to the topic of AI?
Yeah, it's basically, and we actually did we're doing outreach on AI and trying to talk to people. So we actually had one of our agents go out to X and the different social media and gather intel on what people are talking about with generative AI. And one of the themes is they're frustrated with it. They don't know, it won't work right. They don't know how to use it. It's not doing what they want. So that's probably the biggest thing right now that I see a lot of folks getting into it is just the frustration of what do I do with it? They read all this hype and they hear all this stuff and they
Right.
go to try and use it and it doesn't do what they think it should do, like sending a 100 megabyte email attachment, because they're trying to do things that it's
Right.
not ready for, or they don't understand the limitation or what it's supposed to do. So that's really the biggest thing that we hear. So our approach is governance and process and iteration and learn, how to use it and fail fast with it
Right.
and find out what you can do with it that will actually produce some benefit to your organization.
Yeah. Fail fast and fail better. It almost sounds
Yep.
like Samuel Beckett.
Yep.
Don't want Samuel Beckett writing our business plans. But in any case, but I take your point. Um, Last thing, we have this segment that we call bag check, and we ask guests, what are your go-to AI tools? You already sort of alluded to a couple of them. You talked about Claude, some other things. What else are you at liberty to share with us, Mr. Wyatt?
Oh, sure, sure. I think right now I like ChatGPT the most. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why is because it organizes all of your chat history and you can actually categorize it and start conversations on topics and then go back to those conversations and it
Right.
remembers what you were talking about. That tool has been great. The other one is like the Fireflies and the different transcription tools that join the meetings that actually transcribe all the audio and then, taking that and running it through some of them. ChatGPT also has a sandbox now that my developer's been telling me about. And it also now has natively API into Google Sheets. So, Google Sheets can help you organize your prompts
Nice.
and categorize them and catalog them and then send them back and forth in the responses to ChatGPT.
I think I saw just earlier today that they have this enhanced image generator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and yeah, it does it in line now. So you can in ChatGPT, you can ask it to make images and it makes them right there within that same window.
Interesting. That technology is interesting. Somebody was talking about OCR, optical character recognition technology, AI
Mm-hmm.
driven. It's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is very much a retro conversation. I remember back in the day when that technology came out, it was kind of mind blowing, just the idea that you can do this, but it was so crude, never worked. It
Mm-hmm.
got a little bit better, but it was never 100% usable.
Well, AI makes it almost perfect now.
I
And
know, I
something
know,
I
it's
just
amazing.
did is I had two different products that were similar. I took a photo of the ingredients of each and uploaded them to ChatGPT and tell me the difference between the two, and it did it. It OCR'd those images,
Yeah.
and yeah. Hmm.
I know of that. I've not used it, but again, just an example of all of a sudden you sleep on this technology and AI sort of supercharges it, and all of a
Hmm.
sudden,
Yep,
covers that last bit that it just was never able to get over.
that's a good way to say it because that's the things to really start looking at, or all the technologies we've used for years, and AI is supercharging all of that stuff right now.
Yeah, breathing life and actually taking them up a level
Hmm.
and
Yep,
finishing them. Like with
yep,
OCR, it sort of like finishes it. It brings it home.
yep,
Now
yep.
it's a ready for prime time tool.
Hmm.
Anyways, a great conversation. I'm glad you made time for me today, Mark.
Sure, sure. Yep, yeah. This has been great.
Any closing thoughts about AI, where things are headed, positive, negative, somewhere in between?
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts are that, it's a powerful technology, it's a powerful tool, but that's what it is. And the more that anyone that knows the history of the internet can look at the similarities of the evolution, they're there. The one difference I would say is that this is way, way faster, probably 10x faster than the way the internet evolved. And to, start now to prepare for the speed of change that is not coming, but is actually happening right now.
By the way, I wanted to introduce you as the serial entrepreneur's serial entrepreneur. I missed that window, so I'm going to
Okay.
close with that thought. So Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen. I had on today's podcast, on today's X Factor podcast, the serial entrepreneur Mark Wyatt. Mark, thanks so much. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Today I spoke with Mark Wyatt, who's worked in the field of IT consulting and software development over the past 25 years. He has been the owner of several software development companies, two of which were acquired by other firms. Currently, he is the founder and CEO of Quantiv Group, a consulting company dedicated to helping other tech firms with business development using the agile method. Mark joined me today from Cincinnati, Ohio. This is Charles Epstein for the X Factor. Thanks for listening.